Now, I did promise that I would do videos grading each division in the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm a little behind the curve, but better late than never, I suppose. So that's what I'm going to do now. And of course, I'm starting where my biases and loyalties and interests lie the most, and that is with the NFC North. And, as I look at this division, you have a mix of things, right? Some teams, or at least one team in the Lions, that seem to be on the cusp. The Packers found their long-term quarterback, last year in Jordan Love. They found out that he is the guy. The Chicago Bears drafting Caleb Williams. I think they've got the guy and seem to be a team on the rise. And then you got the Vikings kind of floating around out there. So let's take a look at what each of these teams did. I'm going to start, and I'm going to go from my grades in terms of worst to first. Now, one or two things to keep in mind before we get too far here is that this is a fun exercise, and it's certainly not going to hold up 100% in all cases 3 years from now, and that's not really the point. But you can grade drafts at the moment based on a combination of factors, such as how did a team play the draft game? What players did they take? How did they approach it? Philosophically, did they go in the right direction? Or did they pull a Belichick when he needed to help Mac Jones last year and draft defense on the first 3 rounds, right? You can evaluate those things. You can evaluate reaches and steals and value picks and all of that stuff. So let's start off with the Minnesota Vikings. They had to come out of the draft with a quarterback. You really can't sit there and say you're taking things seriously if you're going to just run Sam Darnold out there in 2024. So time will tell if they got it right with J.J. McCarthy. You have to believe or think that they wish they could have moved up for Drake May. And they also likely got punked by the Jets to move up one spot. There really wasn't anybody else too interested in moving up to that spot. The Vikings gave up 11, 129, and 157 to get up to 10, and then got 203 in return. But that's one of those situations when it's so close, you can't take the chance. So I don't begrudge them too much for that. In a bubble, that makes sense. It's one slot, go up and get your guy. However, when you look at this, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah seems to not quite grasp the concept of the draft value chart and the draft pick value chart, because they gave up a fortune to move up originally from 42 to then get to 23 to inevitably get to 17 to end up with Dallas Turner. When you look at this in its totality, they gave up 42, 167, 188 to move from 42 to 17. And that was just what was in this draft. Next year's draft, they gave up a 2025 second round pick, a 2025 third round pick, a 2025 fourth round pick. That is a shit ton to basically move up 25 spots for an edge rusher. Now, at least you could say edge rusher is a premium position. It is, right? You could also point to Dallas Turner was being mocked to the Falcons at 8, the Bears at 9. Kind of borderline top 10 type of talent, and they got him here at 17. That's absolutely true, right? But this was a big overpay just when you think about draft board, draft pick value, draft position value. There's no way to spin this. They have significantly hamstrung themselves next year in the 2025 draft, trading away a second and third and a fourth rounder. That's crazy to me. But then you come back and you say, hey, if J.J. McCarthy is their long-term answer at quarterback and Dallas Turner is a top 10-ish edge rusher in the NFL, then does it really matter? And the answer is absolutely not. When you look at the rest of this draft, it's Kyrie Jackson has great physical traits, but he's also going to be 25 in August. Is that the type of guy that you want to be burning a third or fourth round pick on? Will Reichert, the Bama kicker they got in round 6, honestly, might make or break this draft for the Vikings, because if he could come in, he wins the kicking job. And let's say, for example, if you're the Vikings, and coming out of this draft, someday McCarthy is like a top 10 to 14 quarterback in the league. Dallas Turner's a top 10 to 14 edge rusher in the league. And Will Reichard is like a top 10-ish kicker in the league. Then all those picks you gave up for 2025, all the picks you gave up within the 24 draft, you'll have gotten 3 guys in the top 10 to 14 at their position. It's going to look like a really good draft class, so it won't matter that much. That's the reality. But I gave them a C- because that's a lot that they gave up. Not a huge fan of that. For the Detroit Lions, they were able to turn pick 29 and pick 73 into Terrion Arnold, the Alabama corner, who's a huge day one upgrade in that secondary for a Lions defense that badly needed help there. This is a perfect example of great value and great need coming together and resulting in a great pick. And at that point in time in the draft, when you talk about the Lions, you're talking about impact players are what they need. They don't need 15 guys. They need 2 to 3 guys that can come in this year and make a difference. And Arnold can do that. Arnold was a guy that you're looking at going in the top 10 to 14 pick range, right? Probably somewhere 11 or 12. And he's there at 24. They went up and got him. It was worth giving up 73 to go get him. Make sure you get the guy. It was a great move by Brad Holmes, the general manager. And then they doubled down in the secondary at pick 61 with Ennis Rakestraw Jr., a guy that I would expect to contribute quite a bit as a rookie in that secondary. As you go to round 4, though, you look at guys like Manu and Vaki. Those are pretty big projects. Those are swing for the fences type of guys. And it's possible that neither one of them works out, but at that point, you might as well give it a shot, right? But this draft's really about how they address the secondary. The trade up 5 spots, you are at a point where if you really value the guy, then you go up and fucking get him. And that's what they did, and I applaud Holmes for that. But you could also look at this draft and say it's likely that they only get impact out of those 2 guys that they took first in Arnold and Rakestraw. So I'm going to give them a C. It's because they might not get a ton of value out of this draft. The Green Bay Packers had a little bit of a better draft, though. I was stunned. General Manager Gutekunst took an offensive player in round 1. That doesn't happen very often when you're talking about the Packers. I know some Packer fans were kind of like, about that pick, but Jordan Morgan addresses a need at left tackle. They needed to address the offense. They needed to address the depth and the protection up front for Jordan Love. And at the end of the day, it's enough fucking first-round picks on the defensive side of the ball. Build around your young franchise quarterback, however you choose to do that. But build around him. That was absolutely right. They turned pick 41. They peeled back and got picks 45, 168, and 190. And at 45, they took Edgerrin Cooper, who I think, talk about playing alongside of Quay Walker. I think he's going to be better than Quay Walker in that linebacking core. Javon Bullard at 58 addresses a really big need at safety and should be a year 1 starter for them. And one of my favorite players in this entire draft, the Packers were able to get Marshawn Lloyd at 88. He's got a chance to fill the gap created by Aaron Jones's departure. I liked what the Packers did on the first couple of days of this draft. They had a mix of addressing needs and getting value and getting talent. So I gave them like a B or a B- for this one. And it's one of their better draft classes I've seen in recent years. But to me, clear runaway winner, biases or not, it was the Chicago Bears. They turned the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 draft into Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Torrey Taylor, Tyreek Stevenson, and a 2025 second round pick. Bears football, that is not. They get their franchise quarterback of the now and the future in Caleb Williams, and they're able to turn around at 9 and get Rome Odunze. It shows that the priority was in the right spot. It's go get the quarterback and then give him every opportunity to succeed. Bears football, what is that? We'll take Dallas Turner or Jared Verse at 9 or Byron Murphy. Maybe trade back a little bit, get some value, and still take the defensive guy. Ugh. No. Take the best offensive player at 9. And that's what they did. They didn't get cute. They didn't overthink it. They fucking did what they needed to do. And then when you look at this Bears draft from a bigger picture standpoint, Pick 40 was used in the Montez Sweat trade. Pick 110 was traded for Keenan Allen. They took pick 144, traded that away for Ryan Bates, who's going to compete at center this year, and then got that pick back so they could take Austin Booker, which they also gave up a 2025 fourth-round pick. But Austin Booker was one of those guys you're looking at for the Bears as like a round 3 or 4 talent, and they get him in round 5. Then you get Karan Amagaje. To me, he's athletically, he's a higher upside Braxton Jones. Whether he plays at tackle or guard remains to be seen, but he has the chance to be a future starter. He's absolutely worth the upside there. But when you just look at the way this draft played out, you look at this all started at the 2023 draft, and how ironic it is that, when you look at Ryan Poles, he's basically done what the fuck I wanted him to do at the top of the last 2 drafts. And a lot of Bears fans love it. How ironic. But it's really hard not to think that they're the clear winners here. It really, really is. Unless you really are of the opinion that Caleb Williams is going to bust, then obviously I think that changes your opinion entirely. But even then, let's say Caleb Williams totally sucked. They still turned the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 draft into DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Torrey Taylor, Tyreek Stevenson, and a 2025 second-round pick. That still makes them massive winners. They basically traded Bryce Young for all of that. Yeah, period. Just on that alone, they're big winners here in this division. They're one of the big winners of NFL draft weekend. But when you look at Caleb and you look at Rome and you look at what they will bring to that offense, like, Bears football no more! Bear down, bitches! NFC North! They're coming! They're coming! They're coming!